The moment Ethan heard his boss, Richard Coleman, say those words, his vision blurred with rage. The room, filled with the buzz of corporate chatter and clinking glasses, faded into white noise. This weekend, I'll be spending time with your wife, and for this favor, you'll keep your job and get a nice bonus. The audacity. The smug look on Richard's face, the way he swirled his whiskey like he was making a casual business deal. Ethan wanted to knock him out right then and there. His knuckles tightened around the glass in his hand, the ice inside cracking under the pressure. But before he could react, before he could even begin to process the sheer insanity of what was happening, a voice cut through the chaos. I agree. Ethan's head snapped toward Olivia, his wife, the woman he had built his life with, the woman who was supposed to be his partner. She stood beside Richard, her delicate fingers tracing the rim of her champagne glass, her expression unreadable. Had he misheard? Was this some twisted joke? You, what? The words barely scraped past his throat. Olivia finally turned to face him, her dark eyes void of guilt. You heard me. I agree. The floor beneath him felt unsteady. His mind raced, grasping for some rational explanation, but none came. A bitter laugh escaped Richard as he clapped Ethan on the shoulder. Smart woman you've got there, Palmer. Knows how to play the game. Ethan jerked away from his touch, his jaw clenched so tightly it ached. Olivia, what the hell is going on? His voice came out lower now, rough, dangerous. She sighed, setting down her glass with an almost bored expression. Ethan, don't be dramatic. It's not like we haven't talked about this before. His stomach turned. Talked about what? Selling yourself off like some. Careful, she cut in, her eyes narrowing. Richard chuckled. I think I'll leave you two lovebirds to chat. He strolled away, completely at ease, as if he hadn't just detonated a bomb in Ethan's life. Ethan turned back to Olivia, his pulse thundering in his ears. Tell me you're joking. Olivia arched an eyebrow. Ethan, come on. You've been struggling at work for months. We both know you're on thin ice. This was an opportunity. An opportunity? His voice rose. A few people glanced their way, but he didn't care. For what? Olivia? To humiliate me? She rolled her eyes. To secure our future. You think your pride is worth more than our lifestyle? Than everything we've built? A realization crashed over him like a tidal wave. This wasn't some heat of the moment betrayal. This was planned. Calculated. You've done this before, haven't you? He accused, his voice barely more than a whisper. Olivia didn't even flinch. Does it matter? His fist trembled at his sides. He had never hit a woman, never even come close, but right now, he understood the kind of rage that drove men over the edge. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a condescending murmur. Grow up, Ethan. This is how the world works. Men like Richard run things, and women like me? We know how to survive. He could barely breathe. You disgust me. A smirk curled at the corner of her lips. Then leave. But we both know you won't. Because without me, you have nothing. Her words hit like a sledgehammer to the chest. And the worst part? A tiny, poisonous part of him feared she might be right. Ethan stood there, his body locked in place, as Olivia's words echoed in his head. Because without me, you have nothing. The arrogance. The sheer audacity. She turned on her heel, sauntering toward the exit of the venue like she hadn't just torn their marriage apart in front of everyone. The elegant slit in her dress swayed with every confident step, the same dress he had bought for her anniversary last year. A cruel joke. Ethan's fist clenched at his sides. He wasn't going to let her walk away like that. Not without answers. Not without making her face what she had done. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the murmurs and judgmental glances, and grabbed her wrist just as she reached the valet stand outside. We're not done, he hissed. Olivia yanked her hand free, unfazed. Oh, but we are. Unless, of course, you've suddenly found a way to make 6 figures overnight. Her eyes gleamed with something that wasn't quite amusement, more like pity. His stomach twisted. So that's what this is about? Money. She exhaled, clearly irritated. Ethan, I don't have time for your moral crisis. You had one job to provide. And you failed. What did you expect me to do? Clip coupons and beg for overtime? She scoffed. I'm not built for that life. His blood ran cold. You've been lying to me this whole time, haven't you? Olivia smirked, tilting her head like she was actually considering whether to tell the truth. Let's just say Richard isn't the first man who's appreciated my company. His chest tightened. How long? She sighed, tapping her manicured nails against her clutch. Does it really matter? You wouldn't have known if Richard hadn't been careless enough to make it public. And honestly, she leaned in slightly. You weren't supposed to know. Something inside him snapped. You're unbelievable. And you're naive. She checked her phone, her interest in this conversation clearly fading. Are we done now? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. If you think I'm just going to let you get away with this, you're out of your mind. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, Ethan. Let me? Sweetheart, you never had control to begin with. The valet pulled up in her car, a sleek, black BMW. Another gift from him. She slid into the driver's seat with ease, barely sparing him a glance. Try not to make a scene. It's embarrassing. And with that, she drove off, leaving him standing there, fists trembling, heart hammering, every illusion he had about his marriage shattered. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark, his mind replaying every moment, every conversation, every warning sign he had been too blind to see. The late-night, girls' nights that never seemed to end before sunrise. The sudden interest in high-end lingerie when their intimacy had all but disappeared. The unexplained charges on their credit card, boutique hotels, expensive dinners, jewelry he had never seen her wear. It was all there. It had always been there. He grabbed his phone, his fingers numb as he scrolled through their shared cloud storage. If she had been this reckless, there had to be proof. And then he found it. Photos. Messages. Videos. Olivia, sprawled across a hotel bed in silk sheets, champagne glass in hand. Olivia, draped over Richard's lap at some high-rise bar. Olivia, in his car, their car, smiling at the camera like the cheating, lying woman she was. And the messages, they made his stomach turn. Richard, you're wasted on him. Can't believe he still doesn't know. Olivia, he's pathetic. But at least his paycheck paid for my last Chanel bag. Richard, after this weekend, I might just have to keep you all for myself. Olivia, you wish. You're not that rich. His hand shook as he gripped the phone. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was mockery. She had played him, used him, laughed at him. A sharp knock on the door snapped him out of his trance. He checked the time. 2:37 a.m. Who the hell? Another knock. Louder this time. Heart still racing, he stood and made his way to the door. When he swung it open, his breath caught in his throat. It was Olivia, smirking, wearing the same dress she had left in, though now slightly disheveled. And behind her, parked at the curb, was Richard's car. You miss me? She asked, stepping inside like she still had the right. Ethan could barely process what he was seeing. You have got to be kidding me. She shrugged, tossing her purse onto the counter like nothing had happened. Richard's wife came home early. He had to ditch me, so. Her eyes raked over him lazily. Lucky for you. I had nowhere else to go. His hands clenched at his sides. Lucky for me? She flopped onto the couch, stretching out like she owned the place. Oh, don't be dramatic, Ethan. You always said you wanted me to come home, didn't you? She let out a slow, exaggerated sigh. God, you should have seen your face tonight. It was priceless. He stared at her, barely recognizing the woman in front of him. Who are you? She grinned. The woman you married. You just never bothered to see me for who I really am. Something inside him shifted. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This wasn't betrayal. This was war. Ethan stared at Olivia sprawled across the couch, her smug grin making his blood boil. She had just waltzed back and like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't humiliated him in front of everyone. Like she hadn't spent the evening with Richard Coleman and God knows who else before him. His fingers twitched at his sides. He had two choices, explode right then and there, or play it smart. Get out. His voice was eerily calm. Olivia stretched her legs, clearly unfazed. Don't be boring, Ethan. You're not seriously kicking me out in the middle of the night, are you? His jaw clenched. You don't live here anymore. She scoffed, sitting up slightly. Oh, come on. We both know you're not throwing me out. You're too nice for that. She pouted mockingly. And besides, I don't feel like driving back to my apartment. His fist trembled. Your apartment? She smirked. Oops. Guess I forgot to mention that. She flicked her nails, inspecting them like the conversation bored her. I got my own place a few months ago. Thought it would be convenient. Ethan inhaled sharply, fighting the urge to grab something, anything, and smash it against the wall. She had been planning this for months. You're unbelievable, he muttered. And yet, you married me, she shot back smoothly. His nails dug into his palms. Don't give her the reaction she wants. Stay in control. You know what? He exhaled, rolling his shoulders back. Fine. You want to stay? Stay. Her brows lifted slightly, like she was expecting him to scream instead. But if you do, you're going to answer some questions, he continued. Olivia smirked, leaning back against the couch. Interrogation? Kinky. He ignored the jab. Why, Richard? She actually laughed at that, shaking her head. Oh, Ethan. You're still so naive. His eyes darkened. Try me. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. Richard has power. Influence. Money. He's not some guy working for the company, he owns the company. He's not scraping by, he's thriving. She cocked her head. And you? You're just another disposable employee. His breath caught in his throat. That's why? Because he has money. She let out an exaggerated sigh. God, you make it sound so ugly. It's not just about money, Ethan. It's about winning. Richard wins. He takes what he wants. And guess what? I like being with winners. His chest felt tight. And what was I? She didn't hesitate. A stepping stone. Silence hung between them. Thick. Heavy. And then, Olivia stood, brushing imaginary dust off her dress. Anyway, this has been fun, but I'm exhausted. If you're done with your little heart-to-heart, I'm going to bed. Ethan narrowed his eyes. You're not sleeping here. She arched an eyebrow. Are you going to stop me? His hands twitched at his sides. She took that as an answer. With a satisfied smirk, she turned on her heel and strutted toward the bedroom, their bedroom. Like she owned the place. Like he was nothing more than an inconvenience. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing. Every part of him screamed to throw her out, to finally be done with her. But then an idea crept into his mind. A dangerous, calculated idea. If Olivia wanted to play games, he was about to show her that he wasn't the same naive man she had married. She had underestimated him, and she was going to regret it. Ethan stood in the living room, staring at the hallway where Olivia had disappeared into his bedroom, no, their old bedroom. His pulse hammered in his ears, but his mind was sharpening. The old Ethan would have kept arguing, let her twist things, let her win. Not this time. He grabbed his phone, scrolled to his lawyer's contact, and hit call. It rang twice before a groggy voice answered. Ethan? Man, do you know what time it is? Jake, I need to file for divorce. First thing in the morning. A pause. Then, fully awake now, divorce? What the hell happened? Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. I'll explain everything later. Just get the paperwork ready. And make sure she walks away with nothing. Jake let out a low whistle. Damn. All right, I'll set up a meeting at my office at 9. But if she's as bad as you're making her sound, don't let her pull anything overnight. Don't worry. Ethan's lips curled into a cold smirk. I've got it handled. He hung up. Now, it was time to deal with Olivia. The bedroom door was slightly ajar when he walked in. Olivia had made herself comfortable, sprawled across the bed like she owned it. Her dress was draped over a chair, leaving her in nothing but one of his shirts, something she used to do when things were good. Now, it felt like a mockery. You've got some nerve, he said, leaning against the doorframe. She stretched, letting out a soft sigh. Are we really still doing this, Ethan? Just accept it. You lost. His jaw ticked, but he forced himself to stay calm. Oh, I've accepted a lot of things tonight. But here's what you need to accept. You're not getting a damn thing from me. She laughed. Please. You think a judge is going to leave me with nothing after all the years I wasted on you? Wasted? His voice was dangerously low. She sat up, flipping her hair over her shoulder. Yeah, wasted. I should have left years ago, but no, I believed in you. I actually thought you'd become something. But instead, you just stayed the same boring, predictable. Predictable. Ethan chuckled darkly. That's funny, considering you didn't see this coming. She frowned. What are you talking about? He stepped closer. I already called my lawyer. By tomorrow morning, you'll be served with divorce papers. Her smirk faltered for the first time. Excuse me. You heard me, he said coolly. And since I have all the proof of your little affairs, you're not walking away with a dime. Her eyes narrowed. Proof. He pulled out his phone, swiping to the photos and messages he had found earlier. He tossed it onto the bed beside her. Olivia's face paled as she scrolled through them. You went through my stuff? Wrong, Ethan corrected. You were stupid enough to leave it where I could find it. She swallowed hard, but then, just like that, her fear was gone. In its place was something colder. Sharper. So that's your big move? She tossed the phone aside. Divorce me? Humiliate me? She scoffed. Good luck. Because I promise you, Ethan, I will drag you through hell before I let you in. He stared at her, unblinking. You don't get it, do you? She folded her arms. Enlighten me. You already lost. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, he turned on his heel and walked out, leaving her sitting there, silent for the first time all night. The next morning, Ethan was already dressed when Olivia came storming out of the bedroom. Her hair was a mess, her expression pure fury. "You are not divorcing me," she snapped. "Funny," Ethan said, sipping his coffee. "Because that's exactly what's happening." She marched up to him. "I control this marriage, Ethan. Not you. That's where you're wrong." He set his mug down. "You controlled me for years. Played your little games. Lied. Cheated. Used me. But it's over now." She clenched her fists. "I swear, if you go through with this—" "You'll what?" he interrupted, tilting his head. "Throw another tantrum? Sleep with another one of my bosses?" He let out a cold laugh. "Go ahead, Olivia. But just know this, by the end of today, you'll be nothing more than a bad memory." Her nostrils flared. "You'll regret this." "No," Ethan said, his voice firm. "I regret ever meeting you." Olivia's face twisted in rage. But for the first time, she had nothing to say. And that silence? That was victory. Ethan had expected Olivia to lash out, to scream, to throw something, but instead, she just stood there, breathing heavily, her nails digging into her palms. It was the first time he had ever seen her truly cornered. Good. Let her feel it. Let her know that she had finally lost. She lifted her chin. "Fine," she said smoothly, her voice suddenly calmer. Too calm. "If that's how you want to play it, Ethan, then I hope you're ready for war." Ethan scoffed. "War? You don't have a single card left to play, Olivia. You're broke, you're exposed, and I'm about to erase you from my life like you never existed." A smirk tugged at her lips. "Oh, sweetheart. You think you've won, but you forget. I know exactly how to make your life miserable." Ethan's fists clenched, but he didn't let her see the flicker of unease. Olivia was many things: a liar, a cheat, a manipulator, but above all, she was dangerous when cornered. He had no doubt she was already thinking of ways to make his life hell. But he wasn't the same man she had spent years controlling. He was done playing defense. His phone buzzed on the counter. "Jake. Right on time." He answered. "Yeah. Got everything set," Jake said. "Divorce papers are ready to be served today. You sure you don't want to hit her with a restraining order too?" Ethan glanced at Olivia. She was watching him, arms folded, her gaze unreadable. "Not yet," he murmured. "But have it ready. Just in case." Jake exhaled. "All right. See you soon." Ethan hung up and turned back to Olivia. "You might want to check your schedule. You've got a little appointment with a process server later today." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, Ethan, you really think I didn't see this coming?" He narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" She sauntered over to the couch and picked up her purse, pulling out a folded piece of paper. With a slow, theatrical movement, she tossed it onto the counter. Ethan's stomach tightened as he unfolded it. "Petition for divorce. Filed by Olivia 2 weeks ago." "You're not the only one who can play dirty," she said sweetly. Ethan stared at the paper, his mind racing. She had filed first? Jake had told him that in their state, whoever filed first had a slight legal advantage. It could determine how assets were divided, how alimony was handled. And the way Olivia was smiling, she knew exactly what she had done. "I was just waiting for the right moment to let you know," she continued. "And last night? Oh, Ethan, you made it so easy." Ethan forced himself to breathe. "So that's it? You cheat, and now you want to cash out." She shrugged. "Call it what you want. But I am getting my share." "And you? You're going to pay for wasting my time." His jaw clenched. "Wasting your time?" She smirked. "You heard me." Ethan wanted to slam his fist through the counter. Unbelievable. Even after everything, she still saw herself as the victim. Still thought she was owed something. But then, something clicked in his mind. She was bluffing. If she had really been confident in this divorce working in her favor, she wouldn't have hesitated to throw it in his face last night. No, she had been waiting, which meant she was still trying to play the game. Ethan exhaled slowly, letting a smirk of his own curl onto his lips. "You know what, Olivia?" He folded the paper neatly and set it back down. "Good. I hope you get exactly what you deserve." For the first time, he saw the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She had expected anger, rage, a fight, but she didn't know what to do when he wasn't playing by her rules anymore. The day passed in a blur. Ethan met with Jake, signed his paperwork, and officially filed his own counterpetition. Olivia might have thought she had the upper hand, but she had underestimated just how quickly Ethan was willing to burn everything down to get rid of her. By the time he got home, he was exhausted, but ready. Olivia was still there. She hadn't packed a single thing. Instead, she was lounging on the couch, flipping through her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. Ethan sighed. You're still here." She barely looked up. "Where else would I be?" "Your apartment," he said flatly. She smirked. "Oh, that. Yeah, about that. I might have exaggerated a little. I do have a place, but I'm not exactly in a hurry to move in." His patience snapped. "Get out." She pouted mockingly. "Ah, but I like it here. And technically, I still have every right to be here until the divorce is finalized." Ethan exhaled slowly, forcing his rage back down. "Fine. Stay as long as you want." Her eyes narrowed slightly. That's it. That's it," he said smoothly. "Stay. Make yourself comfortable." He walked past her toward the kitchen. "I'll even order takeout. You still like that overpriced sushi from downtown?" She watched him warily. "What are you playing at?" He smirked as he grabbed his phone. "Oh, nothing. Just figured if we're stuck in the same house for a little while longer, we might as well enjoy it, right?" He saw the exact moment doubt crept into her eyes. Good. She thought she had trapped him, but she had no idea that he was already 3 steps ahead. And when he was done, she wouldn't just lose. She'd wish she had never played the game at all. Olivia sat stiffly on the couch, eyes narrowing as she studied Ethan. She wanted to believe he was bluffing, that his sudden calm was just a mask covering his inevitable breakdown. That was how it had always worked before. He'd get mad, then she'd manipulate him into feeling guilty. But now, something was different. Ethan moved through the kitchen, tapping at his phone. "Hope you're in the mood for sushi," he said casually. "Figured we'd have one last meal together, to celebrate the end of this disaster." Olivia scoffed. "You really think you're going to scare me with this nice guy act?" He didn't even glance up. "Who said I'm acting?" The way she shifted slightly told him she felt the change. And that was exactly what he wanted. She was used to having control. Used to him chasing, begging, reacting. But now, she was the one second-guessing everything. Good. Let her squirm. As he finished placing the order, his phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "We've got her cornered. She's hiding something. We'll call soon." Ethan smirked. He already had a feeling Olivia was playing more than one game. Now, he just had to find out what. The doorbell rang. "That was fast," Olivia muttered. Ethan walked to the door, expecting the takeout guy, but when he opened it, it wasn't food waiting for him. It was Logan, Olivia's latest boyfriend. The man had the nerve to smirk. "Evening, Ethan. Mind if I come in?" Ethan didn't move. He took a slow, measured breath, forcing the sudden rush of anger back down. He had expected Olivia to pull something, but this was bold. Before he could say a word, Olivia's voice rang from behind him. "Oh, finally. What took you so long, babe?" "Babe." Ethan clenched his jaw so hard it hurt. Logan stepped inside like he owned the place, brushing past Ethan and walking straight to Olivia. She stretched lazily on the couch, giving him that smug, satisfied smirk Ethan used to fall for. No? It made him sick. "You invited him here?" Ethan asked, his voice dangerously calm. Olivia shrugged. "What? You said we should enjoy our time together. And, well?" She gestured between herself and Logan. "I am enjoying myself." Logan smirked, slipping an arm around Olivia's shoulders. "Man, you really let this one go, huh?" He gave Olivia a squeeze. "But hey, your loss, right?" Ethan exhaled slowly, staring at the two of them. He could feel the anger in his chest, hot and sharp, but he refused to let it control him. Olivia wanted him to explode. She wanted him to lose control, to do something stupid. So he smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not a fake one. A slow, cold, dangerous smile. He said, stepping forward, "I used to wonder what she saw in guys like you." He nodded at Logan. The pattern always seemed the same, arrogant, broke, easy to manipulate. But now, he laughed softly. "I get it." Logan frowned slightly. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Ethan tilted his head. "It means she likes guys who are stupid enough to fall for her act. But don't worry, you'll figure it out eventually." Logan's smirk faltered. Olivia tensed. Ethan leaned in just a little. "Just a piece of advice, watch your back. Because when she's done using you, she won't just leave. She'll make sure you regret ever meeting her." Olivia shot up from the couch. "Oh, shut up, Ethan. You think you know everything, but you're just a pathetic little..." The doorbell rang again. Ethan didn't move. He already knew who it was. Logan looked between them. "You expecting someone else?" Ethan smiled. "Oh, yeah." He walked to the door and opened it. This time, it wasn't Logan's smug face waiting for him. It was a process server. "Olivia Carter?" the man asked, holding up an envelope. Olivia's face paled. "What?" The server walked inside, completely ignoring Logan. "You've been served." He placed the envelope on the coffee table. "Have a great night." Ethan stepped aside, letting the server walk out. Then he turned back to Olivia, whose smirk had completely vanished. "You filed first, right?" he said mockingly. "Guess it doesn't really matter now, does it?" Olivia grabbed the envelope, ripping it open with shaking hands. Her eyes darted across the pages, then narrowed into slits. "You absolute bastard," she hissed. Ethan shrugged. "Hey, just tying up loose ends." Logan, still standing there like an idiot, glanced at Olivia. What's going on?" She spun toward him. "Get out." Logan blinked. "Wait, what?" "You heard me," she snapped. "Get out." Ethan laughed. A deep, genuine laugh. That was fast. Logan frowned. "Babe, Olivia pointed at the door. "I said go." Logan's jaw tightened, but he wasn't stupid enough to stay. He muttered something under his breath and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Silence. Then Olivia whirled on Ethan. "You think this is over?" Ethan smiled. "I know it is." She took a slow step toward him, her hands curling into fists. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." He stepped closer, looking her dead in the eye. "And you have no idea how much I don't care anymore." For the first time in years, he saw something in Olivia he had never seen before. Fear. She could throw her tantrums. She could scream, threaten, and manipulate. But deep down, she knew she had lost. Ethan grabbed his jacket, heading for the door. "Don't bother waiting up," he said. "I'll be celebrating." And with that, he walked out, leaving Olivia standing there, alone, furious, and powerless for the first time in her life. Ethan stepped outside into the cool night air, inhaling deeply. For the first time in a long time, the weight that had been crushing his chest felt lighter. Not gone, but lighter. His phone buzzed. "Jake." Ethan answered immediately. "Tell me you've got something." "Oh, I've got more than something," Jake said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "Your ex-wife-to-be? She's been busy. And not just with that idiot Logan." Ethan smirked. Not surprised. "Give me details." Jake exhaled. "All right, so I did some digging. Turns out Olivia took out a private loan a few months ago, big one. Over 50 grand. Ethan frowned. Why the hell would she need that much money? "That's the fun part," Jake continued. "She didn't use it for herself. It went straight to a guy named Travis Myers." The name meant nothing to Ethan. "Who is he?" "A problem," Jake said. "Dude's got a rap sheet. Fraud, embezzlement, couple of lawsuits from pissed-off investors. Basically, a con artist." Ethan's stomach twisted. "And Olivia gave him money?" "Oh yeah," Jake confirmed. "Not just that, she was dating him while you two were still married." A slow wave of rage started building in Ethan's chest. He had expected Olivia's usual lies, the manipulations, the affairs. But this? She had been financing some criminal while still living in his house? Jake kept going. "And get this, Travis has been in hiding for the past 2 weeks. Looks like Olivia's investment didn't pan out the way she hoped." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Let me guess, she's scrambling for cash now." "Bingo," Jake said. "That's why she's suddenly clinging to Logan. Probably thought she could squeeze money out of him next." Ethan couldn't help but laugh. Classic Olivia. When one plan failed, she always had a backup. "You're gonna love this next part," Jake added. "She tried to file for divorce first, right?" Ethan smirked. "Yeah. Thought she could screw me over before I had the chance. Well, guess what? She made a mistake." Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. "Explain." "She claimed in her petition that she was financially dependent on you," Jake said. "Tried to set herself up for spousal support." Ethan clenched his jaw. "And," Jake chuckled, "and the second I pulled her financial records, I found the loan, which means she lied about her assets. That's fraud, my friend." Ethan stopped walking. His mind started spinning, connecting the dots. If Olivia had lied about her finances in court, she just screwed herself, he muttered. Jake laughed. "Oh yeah, Judge isn't gonna like that. And if we really push, we might even get her to pay you instead." Ethan could barely contain his grin. He had spent so long feeling powerless, trapped in her web of deceit. But now? Now, the tables were finally turning. "All right," he said. "I need proof. Everything you've got on Travis, the loan, her bank records. Send it all to my lawyer." "Already on it," Jake said. "You gonna tell her?" Ethan smirked. "Not yet. Let her think she still has a shot at winning." Jake laughed. "Man, I love this side of you. No more, nice guy Ethan." "Nice guy's dead," Ethan said. Olivia made sure of that. He hung up and slipped his phone into his pocket. For the first time in years, he was in control. When Ethan walked back into the house, Olivia was still pacing the living room, her nails digging into her palm. She spun around the second she saw him. "Where the hell did you go?" Ethan shrugged. "Just clearing my head." She narrowed her eyes. "You think you've won, don't you?" Ethan smirked. "Haven't I?" Her lips curled in anger. "You're so full of yourself. You don't know what I have planned." Ethan tilted his head. "Oh, you mean your fraudulent divorce petition?" Olivia's expression froze. That was all the confirmation he needed. He stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough to twist the knife. "Yeah, turns out lying about your finances isn't the smartest move. And once the court finds out," he grinned, "you won't be getting a single cent from me." For the first time in their entire marriage, Olivia was speechless. Ethan savored the moment. She had spent years manipulating him, making him question himself, making him feel like he was the weak one. But now she was the one panicking. "You," Olivia's voice shook. "You're bluffing." Ethan laughed. "Am I?" He pulled out his phone and waved it at her. "Want to call my lawyer and find out?" Her eyes darted back and forth, calculating, trying to figure out an escape. "There's no way." "Oh, there is a way," Ethan interrupted. "And it's happening." Silence. Then, crash. Olivia threw a glass across the room, shattering it against the wall. "You can't do this to me." Ethan didn't even flinch. "I'm not doing this to you, Olivia." He smiled coldly. "You did this to yourself." She was seething, her breath coming out in sharp, ragged gasps. For once, she wasn't the one controlling the situation. Ethan turned toward the stairs. "Oh, and by the way," he looked over his shoulder, "I'll be moving out tomorrow." "The house? It's mine. You can figure out where to live next." Olivia's face twisted in fury. "You're just gonna walk away?" Ethan paused. "You know what's funny? That's exactly what I should have done years ago." And with that, he walked upstairs, leaving her standing there, angry, broken, and alone. Ethan stood in the bedroom, staring at the half-empty closet. His suitcase was on the bed, already packed with the essentials: clothes, important documents, a few personal belongings. Everything else? He'd deal with it later. Downstairs, Olivia was still fuming, probably scheming her next move. But for once, he didn't care. His phone buzzed. "Jake again." Ethan answered. "What now?" "You're gonna love this," Jake said, barely containing his laughter. "Guess who just got arrested?" Ethan blinked. "What?" "Travis Myers," Jake said, grinning through the phone. "Your ex's other lover?" "Turns out the cops have been after him for months. Fraud, money laundering, the works. He got picked up at a motel outside of town." Ethan let out a low whistle. "Damn. And Olivia gave him 50 grand? Jake snorted. "Oh yeah. And since they were involved, guess who's next on the cops' list of people to question?" Ethan's smirk grew. "No way." "Oh, yes way," Jake said. "If I were her, I'd be packing my bags right now." Ethan laughed. The irony was too perfect. Olivia had spent years lying, cheating, manipulating. Now, it was all collapsing around her. "Send me the article when it drops," Ethan said. "You got it, man. And hey, enjoy your victory." Ethan hung up, the satisfaction settling deep in his chest. Now for the final act. When he walked downstairs, Olivia was pacing again, her arms crossed tightly. She snapped her head toward him the second he appeared. "You're making a mistake," she hissed. Ethan sighed. "Still going with that, huh?" Her jaw clenched. "You think you're so smart. You think you've won." Ethan tilted his head. "Haven't I?" Olivia stepped forward, lowering her voice. "You still love me." Ethan actually laughed. "Well, you really don't quit, do you?" Her eyes flashed. "You're walking away from years of marriage over one mistake?" "One mistake." Ethan scoffed. "Is that what you're calling it now?" She waved a hand. "Fine. A few mistakes. But that doesn't erase everything." Ethan crossed his arms. "You're right. It doesn't." He took a step closer. "But you know what does? The lying. The disrespect. The constant games. The fact that even now, you're still trying to manipulate me." She lifted her chin defiantly. "You're overreacting." Ethan smirked. "Really? Because last I checked, your boyfriend just got arrested." Her face drained of color. "Bingo." Ethan took his phone out and pulled up the article Jake had just sent. "Here," he said, holding it out. Front page. Travis Myers, arrested for fraud. Olivia snatched the phone, her hands trembling as she read. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Ethan leaned in. "And guess who the police are going to want to talk to next?" Her head snapped up. You're lying. Am I? Ethan shrugged. Why don't you call them and find out? She stared at him, panic creeping into her features. For the first time, she looked truly afraid. Ethan slipped his phone back into his pocket. You should start packing. If the cops come knocking, they're not going to be as patient as I've been. Olivia sputtered. You wouldn't. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Wouldn't what? Let you deal with the consequences of your own choices. She was shaking now. I need time to think. Ethan chuckled. Take all the time you want. But I won't be here when you figure it out. And with that, he grabbed his suitcase and walked out the door. The night air hit him as he stepped outside. He inhaled deeply, taking in the crisp scent of freedom. For so long, he had been stuck, trapped in a marriage that was slowly destroying him. But now he was free. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Jake. Drinks on me tonight. You deserve it. Ethan smiled. Yeah, he did deserve it. And this was just the beginning.